Most engineers configure wireless.1x and completely ignore the wired port, and that is a serious security gap. Here is the reality. Anyone come into your office, plug a network cable into your switch port, and they will get the full network access. That is the breach waiting to happen. No authentication, no VLAN enforcement, nothing. In this video, I am going to fix that one. A complete wired.1x authentication with EAP TLS using Aruba ClearPass, Aruba CX and a Windows client. Certificate based authentication, dynamic VLAN assignment, and I will show you live authentication in Aruba ClearPass Access Tracker, so you will see exactly what's happening to end to end. If you already set up wireless.1x, this is the next step, and it is easier than you think. Okay, in today's video, this will be our lab setup. We will have a Windows client PC which it is acting as a supplicant in our setup. So this client PC is already enrolled with our certificate authority and it is having a client certificate. This is the same certificate which we use for our previous videos also, for the TLS wireless authentication and also for the TEAP wireless authentication. So we will have our Aruba CX switch which it is going to be our authenticator, and we are going to configure the port to accept the .1x authentication which it is coming from the client, and we will have our radius server which it is our Aruba ClearPass. So this ClearPass server is already loaded with the server certificate. ClearPass we are going to configure mainly we are going to configure the enforcement profiles which will be VLAN enforcement based on the AD department, the user department which it is in the AD. We are going to enforce the VLAN. Example, if we have the HR, we will have a HR VLAN. Finance, we will have a finance VLAN, like we did it in our wireless setup. We are going to do the same in the wired also, but it's in a different way. And we are using the EAP TLS as authentication method. So all of these things will be binded into the wired.1x service. We are going to configure these things in this same video. And once the client is successfully authenticated, ClearPass will enforce the VLAN enforcement VLAN, and once the client is successfully moved into the VLAN, we can verify that one in the access tracker. So this will be the lab setup for today's video. So we will start our configuration now. Okay, before we starting, we will verify the ClearPass configuration is fine to start the switch port configuration. So first we will verify the device is added into the ClearPass or not. We will come to the configuration, devices. We can see CX switch, it is already configured, and then let's verify the switch is reaching towards the ClearPass or not. If you remember, in our video series we already integrate Aruba switch with the ClearPass. So if you missed that video, there is a link in here, you can go and watch that one, because in that video we already covered how we are going to configure the authentication source in the switch itself. So in this part we are just going overall like what we did and verifying the configuration is still there or not. So yes, switch is configured, shared secret also defined, and we'll come to the access tracker. We can see we are receiving the request from radius tracking user. So this is our switch IP, and if we go to the switch, so this is our switch. In the switch also you can see the server name is configured, and tracking, you can see it showing the ClearPass is reachable. Okay, right now we are going to configure the roles and role mappings, but in this video we will not going to configure those roles and role mapping again, because we already have those settings configured. If you miss those videos, you can go into the top link and then you can watch how we configure the role, how we do the role mapping and everything. So I will just show you. This is our role mapping policy. We will not configure anything right now. We will configure only the enforcement profiles and enforcement policies. So let's jump into the enforcement profiles. In the enforcement profile, we'll click on add and we will create a VLAN enforcement, and I will give HR VLAN enforcement. HR I will assign VLAN 125. Click on save, and I will configure the finance. And the finance VLAN will come into the switch, and we'll check our VLAN. Finance will be VLAN 129. Done. Then IT VLAN enforcement, IT VLAN enforcement will come into the attribute, and IT is 170. So our enforcement profiles are done. Now we will create the enforcement policy. We'll click on the enforcement policies. We'll give radius, and the default profile we will select deny. Wired enforcement policy, we'll click on rules, click on add, tips, role equals HR VLAN 125. We'll copy this one, we'll select finance, and finance VLAN enforcement, select save, we'll copy this one again, edit, we'll select IT and the IT VLAN enforcement, click save. So it's pretty quick. The enforcement policy also done. Now let's configure the services. So we have already wireless service, we will create a new one. So you can see we will select the type as a wired service. So wired authentication, I will enable the authorization. In the service tab I will not modify anything like in the wireless, like we will not map into any SSID because we don't need to do that one. So we'll keep this one. We'll come to the authentication, we'll remove all these things, and we will keep only the TLS. So we'll remove these things, we'll select EAP TLS and the authentication source as our AD. Authorization source, I will add the endpoint repository. Roles, we will select the roles, and the enforcement, we will select our enforcement profile and click on save. So the ClearPass configuration also done. Now let's start the PC configuration, the supplicant configuration. What we need to do, we'll discuss that one in this chapter. Okay, now let's start the supplicant, the client PC configuration. Before jumping into the configuration, we'll validate the certificate and everything it is in place of this PC or not. We'll go to the MMC and we'll click on add and remove snaps in certificate, we'll add the user, and we'll verify the certificate is already in place of this PC or not. Yes, certificate already present in the PC, so we have nothing to worry about that one. Then we need to enable the wired AutoConfig service in the PC. So we'll go to the services, and then we will select wired AutoConfig. By default this service is disabled, but you need to turn it on. In this PC it's automatically running. So if it is disabled, you need to enable this service. Without this service, we cannot configure the .1x wired .1x settings in the PC. So it's running in here. I will click OK. Minimize this one. I will go to the control panel, go to the adapter settings. So this is my Ethernet adapter. I will click on properties. So once this service is enabled, you can see this authentication tab is appearing. If it is not, the authentication tab will not appear. So in here we will select. Okay, so we will select the smart card or certificate, and then we will click on the additional advanced settings. Advanced settings, we need to make sure the user or computer based authentication is selected or not. So it is selected in here, and then we will come into the settings, and then we will verify uh, like these settings are in there or not. Verify the server identity by validating the certificate, and I will select my root CA, and I will click do not prompt your user to authorize new servers or trusted certificate in the authorities. I will check this one, and I will click OK. Then again I will click OK. So my supplicant, my Windows PC is now ready for .1x authentication. Now let's configure the switch that accepting this .1x authentication. So let's jump into the switch configuration now. Okay, let's start the port level configuration now. We'll go into the inside the port. My port is 1/1/1. So I will configure AAA authentication port access .1x authenticator enable, then AAA authentication port access client limit. I will mention it as a 1. This tells the switch that how many devices are allowed to authenticate on a single port. Setting it 1 means that only one MAC address can complete the .1x authentication at a time. Why does this matter? In an enterprise wired environment, each port typically connects to one endpoint. Sometimes it's a workstation, sometimes it's a laptop, or sometimes it's a printer. If you set a higher number of allowing devices, so multiple devices can share one port. This is something like, let's say like you have IP phone which it is connecting to the switch port, and through the IP phone you are connecting your laptop. So in that kind of a scenario, you need to allow 2, because the switch port will learn the telephone MAC address, also it will learn the PC MAC address. So this scenario will be different if you connecting the DOCIN also. So like it will learn 3 MAC address, sometimes DOCIN also learn in the MAC address. So like that you need to define how many MAC address you will allow to learn per the port. So in this setup I will keep it's only 1, and the next command is AAA authentication port access .1x authenticator reauth period 3600 means this control how often the switch force the client to re-authenticate. 3600 second means it's once per hour. Why do we need to do this all? Without re-authentication, once the device is authorized, it stay authorized until the port goes down. This means that if someone else plug a different device into the same port, the port stay open. The reauth force the switch to periodically check back with the ClearPass and confirm the session is still valid or not. If it is not valid, it will terminate that session, and when the new device is connecting, it will again asking for the re-authentication. So that is the purpose of this command. So we will enable that one also. The next command is authentication port access .1x authenticator. The quiet period I will mention as a 10. What is this command mean? After failed authentication attempt, this is how many seconds the switch wait before allowing the client to connect again. Why 10? It prevents brute force attacks against your ADS server. Without a quiet period, A misconfigured or malicious device could hammer the ClearPass with thousands of authentication requests per second. 10 seconds is sensible default for a lab production environment. In the production environment, sometimes it goes up to 60 seconds, especially if radius server is handling a large amount of endpoint. So in our setup, I will keep it as a 10. You can also keep it as a 10. You can change the number depend on your environment, but it is recommended to keep it in 10. And the other command is max retries. I will keep it 3. What this command means is how many times the switch will retransmit an EAP request if it doesn't get a response from the supplicant before giving up. 3 retries is the standard. It is accounts for the brief network hiccups or a slow supplicant without being so tolerant at the dead device or blocking the port for a long time. Now we will enable the .1x globally in the switch. So let's verify our switch port configuration one more time. I will save this configuration. Show run interface 1/1/1. So this is our port configuration so far. So let's configure the .1x globally in the switch. To enable the .1x globally in the switch, we'll type show authentication port access .1x authenticator enable. So this is the command to enable the .1x globally in the switch, and we will save it. Now let's connect our client and see how the authentication is happening. So I have connect my client now. So let's see show port access clients. So we can see now the username, we can see the port and the flags. Let's see the flags. So it is .1x correct, and C means it's in the client mode, and the S means it is success, and right now it is in VLAN 129. So let's verify it is correct or not. We'll jump into the ClearPass. So we can see it is authenticated in the access tracker. It enforces the finance VLAN. We'll click on input. We can see the port, we can see the username which we seen in the switch. These are the AD attributes. We can see the certificate, and in the radius response we can see in the tunnel private group ID is 129. This is our VLAN ID. So client is successfully authenticated, and ClearPass enforce the VLAN 129 to the client. If you carefully check the switch port configuration, let me bring that one to you again. Show run interface. Under the switch port, we configured only VLAN access 1. We never defined the correct VLAN. That's why this method is more secure than normal port configuration. If you connect, like, you will not get authenticate. And let's verify this one again. I will logging with the other user account, which it is part of the HR account. So right now we tested with the finance, we'll test it with the HR account, and then also we'll verify we are getting the correct VLAN or not. Okay, right now I connect my second user. So this one you can see it is VLAN 125. Previously it was in VLAN 129. It is the same port 1/1/1. It's a different username. So we'll jump into the ClearPass and verify it's correct or not. We receive the request. We can see in the access tracker it is in the HR, and in the input we can see it is enforced 125. So the second user also fine. Now we will verify the third user also. Right now I connect the third user. So you can see it is Alex, and port number is 1/1/1, and it is in the VLAN 170. So let's jump into the ClearPass. So Alex request is here, and it is part of the IT, and it enforces the IT VLAN. In the output, under the output, we can see VLAN 170 is enforced. So all the three users are authenticated within different VLAN. It enforces into the each of the user by based on the department. That is the complete wired.1x EAP TLS setup, from the Windows supplicant to Aruba CX switch and all the way to the Aruba ClearPass Access Tracker by sending the radius accept and dynamically change the VLAN. You can see it in right there in the access tracker. Authentication was succeed, the correct role was assigned, and port moved to the correct VLAN automatically. Now one thing I want to take away from this, wired.1x is not optional anymore. If you are running wireless.1x in your network but your ports are still open, it's a serious security gap. If you ran into any issues following along, certificate is not trusted, port is not being authorized, VLAN is not assigning, drop a comment below. I will read every one of them and I will help you to troubleshoot. Also tell me, are you running wired.1x in your network or still it is in to-do list? I am curious to know about who actually deployed this solution. If this video helped you, the best thing you can do is subscribe to the channel. I publish new ClearPass and enterprise wireless content every week. And in the next video in this series is something a lot have been asking about, ClearPass integration with Azure AD and the Microsoft Intune for the .1x authentication. And that is the cloud native version of what we did today. And honestly, it is the most enterprises are heading right now. I also have full EAP TLS wireless setup video. If you haven't watched that one yet, I will link that video in here so you can watch that one when you are deploying the wireless.1x setup in your network. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.